Sorry about that. My video just timed out on me here. Okay, so what we're gonna do, fortunately, I didn't get very far at all in, I noticed that it timed out. I think I talked for maybe just 1 minute more, and I didn't have too much that I was sharing here. Let's zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so now I've laid the groundwork for this sphere, and I'm ready to start building the values, putting the form shadow on, and so on. So I've actually, you know what, to do that, to start the form shadow, I'm going to use my 4B here, and I want to be extremely careful with how I draw this crescent shape. The last thing I'm going to do is put a hard line in. You already know that, right? But I want to pay attention at what point it starts over here and here, and how it swells. Okay, so I can come up here, make a dot, and this is going to help me give, I don't do this in my own drawings, but I do think it's going to help you, especially if you're a beginner. Make a dot to about where you think, and I'm really looking very closely here. You can see it's about right here, and it is so incremental. It's very incremental here. Right, so here, and I'm going to give myself a little dot right. You can see that this is where the cast shadow is, and then this just does a beautiful little. Alright, so this is going to come here like this, and I'm just going to swing this in here very lightly, like so. Alright, and stand back and kind of assess here. Do I like this or not? I think it needs to dip here a little bit more. Yeah. Maybe come up here a little bit more like this. I need to move this highlight a little bit more to the, I think, to the left a little bit. All right, so this part here, notice how I'm shading it all one value here. It's going to be very flat looking. It's totally okay. Notice how I'll be working on one thing and then I come over and work on another. This is just because I'm noticing everything, okay? And yeah, absolutely, the shape of the sphere, if it's drawn incorrectly, this is going to be incorrect as well. So the whole thing is going through this process of refinement. I keep looking back here, you know, this is where the focus is. This is where my end point is. If I get too fixated on the drawing that I'm putting in here, if I get too fixated on that, and don't look at my reference material, I'm going to get very stuck. We don't want that. You can see that I raised this. It's kind of, I don't like how far up this form, this cast shadow is rising here. Now, I'm not going to take my eraser and go like this. Rather, I'm going to form a point. Let me actually activate this a little bit more. It makes it stickier when I need it, like so. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to form a little point here. Okay? I'm going to come here, just gently, very gently put this in here. You see how I'm making little dots? I'm not going in, I'm rubbing, I'm coming in here. And by making little dots, I'm mimicking the tooth of the paper, okay? This paper has a bit of a tooth to it, which I really, really like. It's why I chose this paper. You know, you have to think for yourself. Just because somebody says something's cheap and never buy it, well, if you try it and it gives you a really great effect, go for it. I really love, I mean, I've already used this paper for my student demonstrations, and I love the effect that pencil gave on top of it. So, you know, but don't do watercolor paper. It's terrible. It's terrible. Stay away from it. I mean, I thought when I first started watercolor, I was, let's see, I was 14, and I thought I was a terrible watercolor painter, and it was the paper I was using, right? So you have to know your tools, right? But, you know, experiment, find what works for you. Just put this back in here. It's just these little micro things. Like this needs to come down just a little bit here. Just a little bit. Once again, make those little dots. Little dots like so. This is how you correct. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I want to make sure. Yeah, I think this needs to, yeah, this needs to come up and slant a little bit more. Like this. Now, I know that this form shadow is going like this. This is the path that I always want to take, but we don't want to make all our pencil strokes go like that because it's going to give it a very flat look. Just trust me on this, right? So you want to make sure that you get vertical lines in here as well. Some nice vertical lines. I can start putting in this darkest dark right over here. I am not going to take, it looks this way, okay? I know it does. It looks like this dark goes all the way to that edge, right? Right to this edge here, but it doesn't, okay? Just trust me, right? Because what we're trying to do, if you take the darkest dark and push it to the limit of that edge there, what that's going to do is it's going to make it look like it's a cutout shape on your paper, okay? You want to, the reality of the ball is that there are no edges. There are no edges. So that shadow is not going to push to that edge right there. It's just not. It's going to actually curve around and pick up, and it's extremely subtle. I mean, it might be, you saw the value scale, it might be a half value right there because this edge is extremely dark, but we need to keep it porous. can see here how extremely soft this is. So there's no, it's very soft here, and then you can barely, like this is as sharp as it gets right here, but still soft, right? Here, like you can see how I'm overlapping a little bit from the cast shadow onto that sphere there, lightly of course, but this is going to give the impression that it's staying in the shadow. Okay, keep it in the shadow. I'm going to curve this around a little bit more. This is very dark indeed. This paper really does have a tooth to it, but as I progress in this drawing, I'm going to remove some of the tooth, especially in here where it gets very, very dark. And the way I do that is I just go in, well, it might be, it's probably a little too soon to do that. Oh, okay, I can start getting really, really, really dark here. And this is just my 4B, right? And you'll notice as we build these values, the more and more three-dimensional this is going to look. You'll notice I don't stay too long on any one area. It's because I want to keep the whole thing moving, right? If you stay too long on one area, you know, you're sacrificing the needs of the picture as a whole. You know, it's kind of like acting in a play. The lead actor must always be aware, you know, the play's the thing. There's that expression, the play is the thing. Get my 9B here and start working on this really, really dark part of the shadow here. And you'll see how I've zoomed in a little bit, because as I move, in the beginning I want to like look at, but oops. But then I can zoom in here and really look at that area. Okay. There's a beautiful little edge right here. Like so. There we go. Normally, I'm already regretting that. Okay, what you're looking at right here is a very tonal values approach to drawing. Maybe you think drawing has to do all with lines, right? Not always. Really, a line is created by two values coming together, right? Or by a turning of a form. And sometimes just by going in there, it's so tempting, right? I saw that, right? And I'm like, ooh, that's beautiful. I want to catch that. But you have to practice a little bit of self-restraint here. A little bit of self-restraint. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go this way. Like so. Like if you think I'm being finicky, oh my gosh, you need to go and look at one of Michelangelo's drawings under a microscope. You'll see that all his lines, they're not lines, they're like series of little like tangled bits of thread and dots, and it's just extraordinary how he built his drawings up. I got my first art education from him actually by copying his drawings. I used to go into the quiet part of the library and just kind of escape with all his drawings. Spend hours just working on them. All right, let's just pull this up. At this point, I feel pretty confident about this circle. I can start committing a little bit more to these values here, these darker values. Still using the flat part of my pencil. The flat, this part. Circle this around. Really pushing deeply here. Mm-hmm. And then really start coming in here. There seems to be a shadow pooling. I'm not going to push this darkness to the edge here. There seems to be a shadow that's pooling right about here. And this is chamois. It's like a soft piece of leather artists use to, you can get it for pretty cheap at an art store. It's not that expensive. Ooh, I don't like that. You have to be careful with this. There we go. So, all right. I like the texture back here. However, I want this to be a little bit more smooth. This beautiful orb. I'm obsessed with circles, okay? I remember just practicing drawing them when I was a kid. I would just sit down and I'd draw circles endlessly. Just practice and practice and practice, because that's really how you get good at drawing circles. It's just lots of practice. You can see this bit of reflected light right here. First of all, notice it's pretty uneven. It's not like this stripe. It's like a cloud. Right. And it doesn't go to the edge. That edge just kind of vanishes here. You can stipple. Stipple a little bit. Stippling is when you make these little dots, like so. Really making this very, very black now. This is also going to get very, very dark up here. Sometimes people are very afraid to put dark shadows on an object, right? You know, to them, by putting dark shadows, however, on the form is when you really bring it out. But it's scary. I know it's scary, but it's never going to achieve its full expression its full three-dimensionality as an object in space if you aren't willing to really put a dark shadow on here. You know, you can see how that's pulling it out. Note how I don't take my, never do that, right? Do little dots, like so. Okay. Oops, that's kind of a... Really, really watch